Hey, what's up everybody? This is Sorcerer501 and today I want to go over all of the unique class mechanics in Diablo 4. So in Diablo 4, every single class is going to have their own unique class mechanic that is something only that class can do that will play in pretty heavily when creating builds or playstyles for that class. And I've gone over these in another video, but we didn't have all the information for all of the different classes, and it seems like we have all of these class mechanics for every single class in the game. So first off, we have the Druid, which was the main class we didn't have much information on when I first went over this, but because of a few leaks, it seems like we know what the Druid's class mechanic is going to be. Now keep in mind, these are leaks, so there's a possibility that these aren't true or can be heavily changed by the time the game is launched, but I have seen pretty similar information in multiple leaks regarding this class mechanic. So the most detailed version of this leak is after a few quests, you unlock the ability to make offerings to spirit animals. Each animal gives some passive bonus depending on the offering level. Offerings seem to be a special druid only loot, and each spirit seems to have 5 to 6 passive bonuses to unlock. Once all bonuses are unlocked with a spirit, you can create a link with that said spirit, but they don't know exactly what that link does. And different spirits seem to be focused on different attributes, so one would be offensively oriented or the other would be more focused on defenses. So still not the most detailed thing, but what I could gather from all the leaks is that there is going to be a druid specific loot that you can be getting just from killing enemies, and these are offerings, and then there are a bunch of different spirit animals that you can give these offerings to, which will then give you some type of passive effects. And then once you unlock all of the passive effects from a specific spirit, you can link to that spirit, but not sure on what that linking actually does. And the Druid's class mechanic seems to be a little bit unique in that you are actually building up these resources. You have these new items that can drop for you, and you kind of have to work towards your special effect, and that's not something many of the other classes have. And next up we have the Barbarian, and the Barbarian gets the arsenal system, which allows you to have 4 different weapons equipped at the same time, and this will be composed of 2 two-handed weapons and 2 one-handed weapons, and this will also apply the affixes of all 4 of these weapons at the same time. Now this also plays into a lot of the Barbarian's abilities, because different Barbarian abilities require the use of specific weapons. So maybe this ability requires two-handed bludgeoning weapons, or this ability requires one-handed weapons. And with these specific abilities in the arsenal system, it will automatically switch between those weapons when you're using an ability that requires one of your other weapons. So if you currently have a one-handed sword out and your ability is going to require that two-hander, when you use that ability, it automatically pulls out that weapon and uses the ability. It's not going to be something like you have to switch between your weapons to then use the ability. It's automatic. This will make weapons a massive part of Barbarian builds, not only because certain abilities require different weapon types, but also because you're going to have the affixes from all 4 of those weapons, which will give you more overall affixes, which can open up some pretty crazy combinations. Next up, we have the Sorcerer that gets the enchantment system. Now this allows you to slot 3 different Sorcerer abilities into one of these enchantment slots, which will turn that ability into a passive effect. For example, if you put Meteor into an enchantment slot, it will periodically cast meteors at random foes. Now there is a downside to this. If you put an ability into an enchantment slot, you can't also use that ability as an active ability on your ability bar. So if you put a meteor into an enchantment slot, you can't also use meteor as one of your abilities, but you get 3 of these slots and they will all give pretty powerful passive effects. And this is going to add a large amount of additional customization and build creation, because you get to choose 3 additional abilities where you're getting a good portion of their effect as a passive. And not only that, this is also going to change where you're going to want to be putting your skill points in your skill tree because you can upgrade these different abilities through that. Now, the developers have not fully explained how upgrading different abilities is going to affect them in the enchantment slot, but you will almost certainly be able to upgrade those abilities in your enchantment slots through your skill tree, which is going to add a lot more different variation to builds. And next up, we have the Rogue, which gets talent specializations. Now, this is the other class in the game that has a little bit more gameplay around unlocking their class specific mechanics. And the Rogue has 3 different talent specializations they get to choose between, and you unlock these by completing a Rogue specific quest line with one of 3 groups: the Sisterhood of the Sightless Eye, the Mercenaries of Kyrgyzstan, and the Outlaw Smugglers of Hawazar. Now, it does seem like you're able to unlock all of these and then choose between them when you want, but it also wasn't specified if you can use more than one of these at the same time. So these 3 specialization systems are combo points, exploit weakness, and shadow realm. So combo points causes your basic attacks to add combo points, and certain skills will consume those combo points for additional effects. Now, these combo points are applied to you as a new resource instead of being applied to an enemy as a debuff. So you're not going to be building these up on enemies and then losing them when that enemy dies. They're going to be built up on yourself, and then they're going to be used as a new resource to give certain abilities additional effects. Now, exploit weakness allows you to exploit the weakness in certain enemy attacks, and all attacks against those specific enemies become critical strikes and deal 60% increased damage. Now, this was shown in the gameplay to be a little bit random, and they mentioned that this would take a bit more of a skilled player because different enemies would get this exploit weakness, and then you would have to be good enough to switch targets on the fly to get the effects of exploit weakness. And also, not sure exactly how this would work in PvP, but this seems like it would be incredibly strong in PvP. And finally, we have Shadow Realm, which is the first one that actually gives you a new active ability. So when using Shadow Realm, you become immune for 1 second, meaning you can't take any damage, and you pull target enemies into the Shadow Realm with you for 5 seconds. In the Shadow Realm, you become stealth, unstoppable, and deal 50% more damage to the afflicted enemies. So unstoppable meaning you can't be CC'd, and stealth most likely meaning the enemies won't even target you. But this was shown to be an ability where you can pull a certain amount of enemies into a Shadow Realm with you, so you can take out some specific enemies out of a group of enemies much more easily in the Shadow Realm. So then you kill those few enemies, and then you can come back out of the Shadow Realm and fight the rest of the enemies. And this also seems like it could be incredibly strong in PvP, especially if you're doing group PvP. This may be one of the strongest abilities in the game because you could potentially get an enemy a bit low and then pull them into the Shadow Realm, not allowing their teammates to help them out or heal them or do anything else like that. And then the rogue can finish them off while being buffed in the Shadow Realm. And that brings us to the final class, which is the Necromancer that gets the Book of the Dead. And also we get a bit more specific information on this because there was a whole quarterly update specifically focused on the Necromancer. So right from the moment you log in, you will start with an extra skill on your bar called Raise Skeleton. With this button, you will immediately be able to raise undead warriors to fight by your side. In addition to this, you will have access to the Book of the Dead. This is a space where you can customize your army or lack thereof with increasing options as you level your character. There are 3 customizable summons in this space, which are Skeleton Warriors, Skeletal Mages, and the Golem. Each summon has one of 3 specializations you can choose from. As an example, you can have your Skeleton Warriors be Skirmishers, Defenders, or Reapers. Skirmishers are a standard warrior that have increased damage and reduced health. Defenders have bonus health, and Reapers have slower attacks but deal damage in an AoE in front of them and have a special wind-up attack that deals a high amount of damage. In addition to this, each specialized unit in the army has unique upgrades upgrades available to them, giving you even more customization over how each unit in their army functions in their overall playstyle. These units and upgrades will have synergies with the various playstyles mentioned above, as well as add other potential ways to play. In addition to all these customizations, we have also added the ability for players to sacrifice different components of their army for personal benefits. Next to each unit type in the Book of the Dead is an extra option to sacrifice the ability to summon that unit in exchange for a personal permanent buff. These buffs are carefully designed and placed so that players can mix and match having one, some, or all the possible summon units while still having relevant options to enhance their build. So that's a lot of information, but the basis of this is you have a Book of the Dead with your different summons. So your skeletal warriors, your skeletal mages, and your golems. And each of these different summons have multiple ways to customize them. So they gave the example of warriors, and these skeletal warriors could either be skirmishers, defenders, and reapers, which all have their own benefits and downsides. And then once you choose what specialization that summon's going to be, you will also be able to choose upgrades for that summon. So you could choose a skeletal warrior, make it a skirmisher, and then you'll be able to choose different upgrades for that skeletal skirmisher. And this can be done with all of the different summons. And then if you're somebody that doesn't want all of these different summons, so maybe you want no summons and you're playing a non-summoner build, or maybe you only want 2 summons, you will also be able to choose a permanent buff by sacrificing your ability to summon that specific summon. Now, we didn't get any information on those sacrifices, but most likely these are going to be pretty strong permanent buffs. So if you wanted to, you could have only 1 summon, but get permanent buffs from your 2 other summons that you instead sacrificed. So this will give you a ton of additional customization for your various Necromancer builds, and it will allow you to either be a full summoner or even go 0 summons, but also get a ton of additional buffs, so non-summoner Necromancers are also viable playstyles and builds. So that is all the information we have for all of the unique class mechanics for all of the different classes in Diablo 4. And this is just their unique class mechanics. You also have to factor in you're going to be having gearing with different effects and stats. You're going to be having all of your different class skill trees, which gives you even more customization for class abilities and passives. Then you have your primary stats you get for leveling up. Then once you get into endgame, you also have the Paragon boards. So there is going to be a plethora of different customization options for creating different builds with all the classes and creating the play style you like. But that's pretty much all I want to go over. So subscribe if you want to see more Diablo 4 or other videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Comment down below what you guys think about all these unique class mechanics. And thanks for watching.